Hello guys, welcome to our HTML5 course. In this video, we are going to be going over introduction to HTML. So I'm going to be explaining what HTML is, and we are going to be looking at the basic structure of HTML. So without further ado, let's dive right in. So the first question you should be asking is, what is HTML? Now we just can't dive into the structure of HTML without actually knowing what HTML is. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is the most basic building, or it's the most basic building block of the entire web, and it defines meaning and structure to web content. Okay, now you may be asking, what is hypertext? You don't know what hypertext is, you don't know what markup is. You should know what a language is. If not, you're going to get that in the C programming course. So hypertext basically are links that interconnect web pages together, either in a single website or between different websites. So you may go to a website and you see a link and you tap it and it takes you to a different web page, which is either on that same website or on a different website. We call that link hypertext. Okay, and concerning markup, HTML uses markup to annotate text, images, and other web content for display, or another content for display on the web. Okay, so examples of markups, you have like the HTML tags, the opening and closing tags. You have the paragraph, you have the headers, as we are going to see today. Okay, so before we go into the structure of HTML, to write HTML we need a code editor. We need a workspace where we are going to be writing all those codes. So for those using their PCs, please download Visual Studio Code for this course. You can get that at code.visualstudio.com. And for those using their mobile phones, download Trep Edit. Okay, and to view the website or the web page that we are going to be writing our code, or in Visual Studio, we need a browser. So you need a browser to see your web page or website. So for this course, we are going to be using Google Chrome. You can also use other browsers. I guess other browsers are fine, but I recommend Google Chrome. And for those on mobile phones, TrepEdit has a built-in browser, so you don't need to download another browser, or you don't need another browser. You can run everything on TrepEdit. Okay, so guys, pause the video here, go and download these apps and come back to the video. So with that said, let's dive into the video. Okay guys, so I'm guessing everyone has paused the video and downloaded the various code editors and the browsers if needed, or if need be. Okay, so with that done, then we can dive into coding, into writing our HTML codes. Now, to write our HTML codes, we are going to need files, and those files should be stored in the folder. So I'm just going to create a folder on my desktop. So I go to new and folder, and I'm just going to call it introduction to HTML, or simply introduction, and I'm going to keep that in my desktop. Now, so after creating this folder, what you want to do is to open Visual Studio Code or TrepEdit. So anyone that you downloaded is fine. So I'm just going to open Visual Studio Code and wait for that to open. Fine. So sorry, don't save. Okay, so when you open Visual Studio Code, you should either see this or you should see a welcome page. Fine. So if you're seeing this, no problem. If you're seeing the welcome page, still no problem. We need to access our folder, the folder we created, the introduction. So I'm just going to go to file and open folder, and I'm going to search for my folder. So I saved it in my desktop, introduction. Fine. So select folder. Good. So we are in our folder. This is our folder here, introduction. You can toggle this Explorer back and forth to create more space when you're working. Okay, so in this folder you can you can create files where you'll be writing your code. So in this video we are going to create our first HTML file, and I'm just going to call that introduction.html. So the reason why we use Visual Studio Code a lot is because Visual Studio Code basically can run a lot of coding or programming languages. Like you can run HTML on it, CSS, JavaScript, Python, C. So it's somehow like a universal code editor. So you just need to, all you need to know is the extension of the file. So if it's HTML, you have .html. If it's CSS, you have .css. If it's JavaScript, you have .js, and other things like that. Fine. So one thing I just want to say is, in your file name you should not have a space. If you have a space, the file is not going to be created, so you should not have a space. Fine. So we are in our HTML file. Now when you are in the HTML file, the first thing you want to write is the HTML markup. So we are going to start seeing what markups are now. So you want to write the HTML markup, and a markup basically consists of two tags, so the opening and the closing tag. But you should know not all markups have opening and closing tags, as we are going to see in subsequent lectures. But in this particular lectures, everything we are going to be looking at is going to have an opening and a closing tag. So your HTML document, the first markup you want to use is HTML. So the opening starts with a less than, and you write the markup in, and then a greater than sign. So as you can see, Visual Studio Code produces the closing tag for you. So you have the closing tag already. So you could do this, or if you're on your PC, you should just write HTML and press the tab key. So when you press the tab key, it produces the opening and the closing tag for the markup. Okay, fine. So in our HTML file, there are basically two main parts. You have the head and the body. So I'm just going to say head and body. Okay, so head and body. Fine. Now in the head you have several things. You could have titles, or the title, not titles. You could have the title of your web document. You have metadata that will define the your browser, some settings in your browser. You could have links, so if you want to link to other documents, you could have them here. Like if you are linking your HTML files with CSS files you're going to see, you need to write the link markup in there. So in this video we are just going to go over one metadata and one title. So obviously you should have one title in your browser. Okay, so we are going to see all that when we are going through our web page on our browser. So starting off, we have the title, and I'm just going to say first web page. Yeah, and the metadata we are going to be looking at today is defining the character set. So the character set we are going to be using here is UTF-8. Okay, fine. And you can also see that here by default. So the select encoding is UTF-8 by Visual Studio Code. Fine. So we are done with our head, the first two things we need in our head. Also, you could specify the language in here, so you could use English or French or whatsoever, but in this video we are going to be using English, so the language there should be English. Okay, in the body, now this is the next part of the video. So in the body we are going to be looking at two things today. So we are going to be looking at headers and paragraphs. Now I am not going to start off with headers, but rather paragraphs. So to write a paragraph on your web page, using HTML, you simply use the paragraph tag, which is just a P. So you have the opening paragraph tag and the closing paragraph tag. Fine. And I'm just going to hide hello world. So hello world. Okay, so fine. And we are just going to look at our web page now. Then we are going to come back and talk about headers. So to view your web page after coding, what you need to do first is you need to save this document. So to save this document, you press Ctrl S if you're on Windows, or Command S on Mac if I'm not wrong. So Ctrl S and the file has been saved, or you could go to File and tap Save. Okay, and even when you open here, you will see the shortcut here. So Ctrl S. Okay, so I've saved this file, and I'm just going to copy the path of the file. So I'm just going to right click here and copy path. I open my browser, so I'm just going to open a new window on my browser. Yeah, and I'm going to paste that path. So you could right click and press paste, or Ctrl V. Fine. So this is let me remove this so you can see better. Okay, so sorry if this is taking a lot. Fine. So this is hello world. This is our paragraph. This is it here, and this is our title. So you can clearly see our title up here. First web page. Okay, so that is it about paragraphs. Now let's look at headers. On a web page, you could have 6 different, well, there are in HTML there are 6 different headers. The biggest header you could have is the H1, so the header 1, and so I'm just going to say header 1, and the smallest header is H6, so header 6, or let me just say last header, and this is going to be first header. Okay, so we have our last header and our first header. Now what you need to know is H1 is the biggest header, and it should be, and in a web page you should have one H1 tag per, or in a website you should have one H1 tag per page. So you should have one header, because H1 is going to be the biggest header, as we are going to see. So let's just go through all the headers and see the variation. So this is header 2, H3, header 3, H4, header 4, H5, header header 5. Okay, so we have H1, which is the first header and the biggest header. You have H2, which is smaller than H1. H3 is smaller than H2. So you could see it as H1 being the biggest header or the biggest topic, and H2 are subtopics of H1. H3 are smaller topics in H2. So let's say you are on a my services page, right? You have the biggest header, my services, so all our services, and you have sub headers. You have H2 tags, which are, let's say, web development, graphics designing, and so on. And under that H2 you have H3 headers. Let's say you are under web development, you have HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You understand? Yes. So H1 is the biggest, and you have H2 as subtitles under H1, and then H3 as sub under H2, and so on, right down to H6. Now to see the edit, or what we have edited here, I'm just going to save the document again, Ctrl S, and refresh this browser. So as you can see, this is our paragraph. This is it here. You have the first header, which is the biggest header. You have header 2, header 3, header 4, header 5, and the last header. So you can see the font size decreases as the header increases. So as you have h1, h2, h3, h4, the font size instead reduces. Okay, so we are just going to write a small code here. So I'm just going to say h1 our services, h2 so 1 web development. Okay, and I'm going to put a paragraph under this web development. Oh sorry, this is 1. Okay, so I don't want to write all this. I don't want to do this. So I just want to create a dummy text, right? So a text that doesn't make any sense, but it's just filling in the place for where I'm going to put my actual text. Now I'm going to be using the lorem ipsum dummy text, and you simply write lorem and the number of words you want the paragraph to have. So let's say I want a dummy text of 15 words. So I'm just going to write lorem 15 and press tab. Or if I want, let's say, just 10 words, and I'm going to write lorem 10 and then tab, and it produces let me open this. Yes, so if I put h1 and lorem 10, it produces 10 words for me. So h2 again, I'm going to say to graphics yeah, and let's use 15 words here. So paragraph lorem 15 tab. Okay, so let's view our let's view. So save, refresh. So you can see I forgot to see here. Refresh, save, refresh. Good. So we have our services page, and you have 1 web development, you have a text, you have 2 graphics designing, you have a text. Now we are also going to see in previous lectures how you can write this one to, like, you can number these headings without actually putting 1, 2 here. But with that done, I think we have come to the end of the lecture today. So yeah, I'm going to see you in the next video. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Oh, I forgot, you could also before we end, you could also create the structure of HTML just by typing an exclamation mark and pressing tab. So when you press tab, it produces everything for you. You just need to come and edit your title and start coding in the body. Okay, or if you don't want this doc type to be here, you could simply write doc and tab, and it produces it without that doc type. Okay, yeah. So like these other metadata, we're going to be looking at them in subsequent videos. So yeah, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. So when we post videos, you're not going to miss them. Leave a comment down there, and yeah, see you in the next video.